I've taken this so seriously that, I was actually in support of it that would have brought more technology to the border. Actually checked all the scanners. And by the way, that was in the bill that Kari Lake also, again, stood up and said, do not pass it. Not because it wasn't a good solution, because it would have brought a political solution to an end that she needs. She needs this talking point. I take this so seriously that as a member of the Armed Services Committee for the last 10 years, I actually introduced a bill into it called The Buck Stops Here, which helps us track down the sources of money that goes to fentanyl all the way from China to Mexico into the United States. So I do take this seriously. And again, this is why I have more support from elected officials and leaders in this country and in this state than she does. Border mayors that used to campaign with her are now campaigning with me because they don't think that she's serious about this. As a matter of fact, we have 45 Republicans, again, that aren't campaigning with her. And what it seems like, Donald Trump doesn't want to campaign with her anymore either. He's not allowing her pictures on any of his billboards. So this is what we're seeing right now, a candidate that could only talk but doesn't actually produce results.
Well, Mr. Gallego, one of the impacts that we see that's really being felt by border towns that we heard from in the questions that were submitted by voters is that the hospitals in border towns are spending on medical care for migrants. Food banks have been impacted and continue to be stretched. And so now locals worry that there aren't enough resources left for them. So how do you rectify or regulate the financial impact for those communities, especially when we're looking at both for-profit and non-profit organizations? 2 minutes.
It's a great question, actually. I've been working for, the last 2 years, especially to make sure that we bring money to our border communities. This is money that's been asked by Yuma County, Santa Cruz County, Pima County, Cochise County.
The money in the NGOs that are transporting people.
We're going to give him his time.
Okay, he wants to fund the NGOs that are
I'll give you a response.
So these communities, including these nonprofits that work with our local communities, are essential to actually making sure that the streets aren't full of men just walking around, right? And so what they do, with the help from us through FEMA, which, by the way, she wants to cut these funds, is we made sure that these migrants aren't affecting these small towns that can't take that impact, and that our local communities, our hospitals, firefighters, law enforcement, ambulances, that they're all reimbursed. Kari Lake, she will do anything and say anything to gain power, including lying.
I haven't had a vote in this. You have had a vote for 10 years, Ruben. Why haven't you voted for
Mrs. Lake
has said that
in 1 minute
that we took money from FEMA, that we took money from FEMA for a hurricane, when in fact we appropriated money specifically for those border communities because they were asked for by these mayors. And now she says we should cut that. She says we should cut that. These mayors, so I hope you'll call the mayor of Douglas, the mayor of Nogales, the mayor of Yuma, and say, hey, because I want to earn points with my friends on these right-wing talk shows, I'm going to cut your funds. Because she's lying right now. She's lying that the money that went to FEMA came from that fund. It actually is going directly to them. But of course, it doesn't matter. As long as she gets to get her talking points in and she gets to lie and get power, Arizona, especially our border communities, are the ones that are going to be hurt.
Mrs. Lake, how do you rectify the financial impact for those border communities?
It's
2 minutes.
absolutely horrifying. Hospitals having to close down, hospitals there that aren't being paid because people coming across illegally are getting services and they're not being paid for them. And Ruben's idea is to actually funnel billions of dollars into the NGOs that are actually taking part in transporting people further into our country, not just here in Arizona. Go to the airport. Take a red eye out of Phoenix Sky Harbor. It looks like a migrant encampment because so many people are moving from Phoenix Sky Harbor to all points, all 50 states, and Ruben Gallego has funded that. That's what he wants to do. The real answer, the real solution, Arizona, is not to have to pour billions into all of this, is to shut down the border. Build the border wall that he calls a dumb, stupid border wall. Build the border wall. And then, Ruben, we don't have to pour billions of dollars into the NGOs. The real solution to help these border communities so that they aren't taking a financial hit is to finally put the border wall up and get serious about border security. But Mr. Gallego would rather pour $260 billion of your hard-earned tax dollars into Ukraine to fight for their borders, not our borders. I want to protect you. That's why President Trump, my good friend, has called me Border Kari Lake. I love the nickname, and I'm going to go there to Washington, D.C. and help him build that border wall and secure the border.
Or would you vote for a ban, or would you find somewhere in the middle? Do you think federal officials, federal government at this point should be involved in this issue at all?
I would codify Roe. Okay. It is absolutely abhorrent that my 15-month-old daughter has less rights and control of her body than her mother and then her grandma. The fact that we have women that are now going to sepsis just so they could get a life-saving abortion. We have women that are traveling with their daughters that are victims of rape out of state so they could get an abortion. A 10-year-old baby girl, victim of incest, had to leave her home state and the comfort of her family to get an abortion. And the reason we need to codify that is because people like Kari Lake are the ones that make this a dangerous situation. This is a person who only 2 years ago, actually less than 2 years ago, said the 1864 territorial law, a law that said if you were an abortion provider, it was a mandatory 2-year sentence, and it had no exceptions for rape or incest, was a great law. She said it was a great law. She said she was thrilled when Roe was overturned. And then when she was disappointed to find out that the 1864 law, again, the one that had no exceptions for rape or incest, was not going to get enforced, she said, well, I hope the sheriffs will do their jobs. Can you imagine?
That's not true.
We have it on tape. These are all your words on tape. Can you imagine Sheriff Joe Arpaio enforcing abortion laws? This is who Kari Lake is. She has told us what she would do. She said it. She said she was thrilled when Roe was overturned. And so do we want politicians like Kari Lake to be involved in these very, very difficult decisions when they should be left to the woman, to the doctor,
states,
and the family?
Okay. Mrs. Lake, you have 2 minutes.
It should be left to the states. I agree with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She said this should be a decision left to the states. Everyone knew it was unconstitutional. And Arizona, and I want to speak to the women of Arizona. I'm the only woman on this stage right now. I don't think I'm standing next to a woman. And so I understand how difficult these choices may be. And we have the choice as Arizonans to decide what our abortion law will be. It's going to be up to us, and we're going to decide in November when we go and cast our ballot. And Ruben Gallego wants to take that choice away from us. He wants to take it back to the federal government in some back room with Chuck Schumer and decide what our abortion law will be here in Arizona. It's going to be up to us. I want us to have that choice, and whatever the law ends up being, whatever our choice ends up being, I will respect. I come from a large family. I'm the youngest of 9, and we had 8 girls, so I know a lot about women. I have a daughter myself, and I want to make sure that we have the choice to decide what our abortion law is here in Arizona. He knows, and Steve, you know this as well, we're running for federal office. This isn't going to be decided in the Senate. This is not. And I will tell you this, I will never pass a federal abortion ban, nor will I approve or vote for federal tax dollars being used for abortion. But here's what I will do, because I'm a mother and I care deeply about women. And because things have gotten so desperate in this country, more and more people are choosing to have an abortion because they can't afford to live, let alone take care of a baby. I don't want any woman out there to make that choice because she can't afford to live because of the votes that people like Ruben Gallego have made that have made our economy practically collapse. It's on life support right now. So I want to go to the U.S. Senate and pass the most pro-family legislation. I want to make sure that UVF is protected. I have many friends who are here. They're my friends today because of UVF. And I have many of my friends who have had children and experienced the joy of motherhood and parenthood because of UVF. This is sad because Ruben Gallego doesn't really care about women's rights. When it comes to our women, our girls who are athletes, he wants us to have to compete against men, biological men.
To follow up, you said that you would not support a federal ban. Do you stand by that if Proposition 139 here in Arizona that would override our state ban, would you still not pursue a federal ban?
First of all, we don't have a state ban. We have a 15-week abortion law that was passed by both Democrats and Republicans, signed into law by both Hobbs and Governor Ducey. And so we don't have an abortion ban. But I will not pass a federal abortion ban in the United States Senate. Ruben Gallego wants to take the choice away from us. He doesn't really care about women's rights. If he cared about women's rights, first of all, I'm astounded that he actually knows the difference between a woman and a man, because I thought there were, 147 different genders. I do care about women's rights. I come from a family of women, and I have a daughter of my own and many nieces and nephews. And I care about Lake and Riley's right to exist and live and be safe. But his votes have caused it to where people are pouring across our border, dangerous people, taking away the lives of women. I care about the ability for our daughters to be able to participate in athletics. He doesn't want that. And he doesn't care about your First Amendment right to the women out there who might disagree with him politically. He wants to censor you. So let's talk about women's rights. Women care about a lot of different issues, Ruben. I know you spent, what, $40 million on attack ads regarding abortion. Think of how many lives could have been saved and how many women could have been helped with $40 million. And think about what we could have done to help make our country a better place with all those attack ads.
Mr. Gallego,
Yes.
I'm going to give you a minute to respond, and I
Thank
also
you.
want you to clarify, because you said you would vote to uphold Roe on a federal level. So that means that states can only intervene in the third trimester.
That's correct. We'd go back to what were the protections we had for the last 50 years and Roe. Now,